everyone. This is Todd Talks, is a panel show that has some of my favorite people. One of which is frozen in time, Mr. Chris Perkins. He's not live right now. He'll be right back. We have Amy
But so
Vorpahl,
intense.
who
Look at him.
it's very intense. Yeah, like he's kind of stealing the show already just by being still. So that's a concern. But yeah, everyone do your freeze until he comes back. So we got Amy Vorpahl, which I am a huge fan of, especially after getting to watch her play at Game Hole Con. That was amazing. And Mr. Jerry
that was the first time we've like met, talked to each other, really did it, and we blew it out of the water, Todd.
Yeah, that was a big crash course. Yeah. Get to know somebody. And then we have Mr. Jerry Holkins from Penny Arcade, and of course the PAX shows that I'm a big fan of. So how you guys doing today? I guess we're going to just wait on. We're not going to wait on Chris. We're not going to just stop talking. Make it even more awkward. But I do love his face this way. It's hard not to look at. It's hard not to look
That's
at.
all I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had to freeze my face. Yeah, if I had to freeze my face like permanently, they would look exactly like him right now. He looks like he's ready to. He's like an awesome, powerful like air traffic controller or something.
Yeah. I think I hear him now. No, I guess not. Okay, well, let's go ahead and jump in. Primarily, I invited all these people here to talk about storytelling and dungeon mastering. I know this is a weird thing to ask, but you guys have been, especially Jerry, you guys have been dungeon mastering enough that are there particular cliches that you find you either do or that you cannot stand when you're running a game or even playing in the game? Like, meeting in a tavern, is that just kind of like old news sometimes? Do you like look for more inventive ways to get people together?
So what do you got, Amy?
Thought he was asking you. I don't think any of those are necessarily too tired, but yeah, I guess the last one I am running, we met in group therapy, to like give everyone a flaw and like a weird way in and like an easy way of like, why are you here? Why do you think you need help? But yeah, I try to mess it up a little bit, but still you can't really get away from the fact that they all need to be here. They all need to be here for a reason. So whether it's in a brawl, if it's in a bar or like on a caravan, they've been hired to be, guards or like they're I don't know. I kind of like let them decide and then move on from there.
Right. I love group therapy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do that next.
That's a great hook. Honestly, that would be a rad hook to come in to start the campaign. Like do the campaign out of order. Yeah, you sound good. Do the campaign out of order. Start with the therapy session for the campaign, and then sort of go into all the problems that led to the necessity of the group therapy. But I love those tropes. Like for me, honestly, especially if I have new players, Todd, I usually use the campaign, and Chris knows this about me too. I use the campaign exclusively to expose new players to those tropes. I mean, the truth is that those tropes constitute, a shared history of this oral tradition, shared storytelling game that I've been playing for like, in my case, 34 years? Those tropes and the exposure. Yeah, I'm super old. I look like a vampire, dude. I mean, just take it in. But all I'm saying is that constitutes our history. Some of those tropes. Now they have to be used carefully, and we have to breathe new life into them. Like the C Team, the Acquisitions Incorporated spinoff that I run. It's on hiatus right now, but it'll be back at Unplugged, and it'll also be back in January at PAX South. But we definitely start in an inn, but the doorway to that inn has been messed with in such a way that it leads to a pocket dimension if you have the port key. So, and then we investigate the same inn at different time scales, different size scales, but you're still meeting in an inn. And it's like there's just certain things you're never gonna take away from me. Like I'm gonna put Formians in every campaign. That's what's up. Like you're gonna see them, and that's you have to deal with it. If you don't want to see Formians, you got to run your own game. That's how
For
it
the
is.
uninitiated, for the uninitiated, Jerry, what's a Formian and how did you discover them?
Oh my gosh, they're so great. They're so great here.
Paint me a picture of the year and the date that you were introduced to Formians.
They're the best. They are the best. Now, I want to make sure that everybody knows we're not talking about Fomorians. Okay, that's like a weird giant mutant thing. No, I am talking about ant-men. I'm talking about I laughed so hard that I almost blacked out there. I need to give myself a second. No, I'm talking about a race of subterranean ant people that communicate with pheromones. If you're not into it, I mean, you might be able to get away with a thrycreen, but there's going to be some tall bug, and like I said, you can run your own game if you don't want to meet these creatures because they're coming.
As like if you're playing with Mike Merles, you're gonna run into an Oni. This is how it is. You're gonna run into a baby eater.
Yeah, at Gueron Slumber near Tribor, I'm sure you're gonna have an Oni experience. Care of Mike Merles.
Chris, do you have your own personal cliches? At this point, you've been dungeon mastering for so long. Are you like, wow, that's very me, what I've just done?
No, my cliches are sort of things that I've like doppelgangers. The person you think is your friend is not your friend, that kind of thing.
Well, from the outside looking in, I mean, your cliche is that you kill people. You're vicious and terrible.
Yeah. That is not a cliche. That is not a cliche. That is slander. That is
wow. Right for the throat.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Todd blowing up.
Yeah. I don't kill characters. I don't kill characters. Players kill characters, and I let them.
That's fair.
That's fair.
You gotta learn them.
Yeah.
Amy, for you as well, do you have a cliche you've
developed? I wanted to show you because I might have them. I love modrons and I find them they're they're annoying bureaucracy is why I love them. You could like monologue between like the mono, duo, try. You can have a monologue that you're doing yourself for your players for like 5 minutes without ever breaking. It's a really fun way to really mess with the players and be like, guys, this isn't your game. This is my game, and I'm gonna have a ball right now. But yeah, they're stupid. They can only communicate one level above, and if you have to go high, it's just they're so cute and dumb and yeah, it can really they're so cute. You can. It makes the game slow down, and sometimes you actually want the game to slow down, and you want the player characters to get super annoyed and like. You have to remind them that they're in a city or they're in a world where bureaucracy works, man. You got to fill out the paperwork.
I have a screenplay about a Modron. Little known fact. It's true. Yeah.
How old?
So I'm waiting. Not very old. I'm waiting for Pixar to knock down my door and want to make it. Yeah.
Well,
it's about a rogue Modron who's basically discovering the D&D multiverse.
Oh my
gosh, that is brilliant. I want that. Yeah, done. Oh my gosh, no, they're my favorite.
Stop motion right now. Let's
I want to show you because I posted it on Twitter and somebody painted minis of these modrons for me. It's a I know where they are.
You got to find them.
Yeah, they're in a bag because I put them in a game. So I would have to go through a bunch of minis, and I won't do that to Todd Talks.
But also,
I do wonder. No, that's totally fine.
The Dieter Lisi. Oh, sorry, Todd. But I mean, think about like
how dare you?
The Dieter Lisi art from the Planescape books. Like that's like, how could you not fall in love with those things? Goofballs.
They were in like advanced D&D, correct? And I just remember like you're like moving through. You're like, oh yeah, demons, devils. And I got my dragons. I got a bunch of giants. And then you're like, what? What is happening? Like, what was someone like?
Cubes and spheres and learn geometry while you play D&D.
Someone had to really fight for them.
I bet that the portal robots, in Portal 2, I bet that they were modeled after models. They had to have been. They look so much like
Atlas and Peabody.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah.
When I was putting together the outline for the monster manual, the first creature that I knew I wanted in the book was the Modron.
Really?
Yeah. It's because they rule.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Because if you're going to play D&D, you have to embrace all that is D&D. Not just the scary stuff, but the quirky stuff too.
Yeah, that's why I like the multiverse.
Right,
so
and
much.
the thing that brought me pleasure about that, Chris, is that it was the art. It's like the art for them that I really like too. It's like they really
have
cool.
Like fleshy lips. Like, why do they have fleshy lips? Everything about them is like metal, and then their lips are like luscious, kissable lips.
Kissing.
Yeah, and really good eyeliner. Great eyeliner. Yeah. They all have look at the original art. They all have amazing eyeliner. Oh. I hope that's not where your Pixar script is going. I don't think they're going to pick it up.
No.
I feel like I cut you off, Chris. So have you ever?
Yes,
Todd.
Todd.
Felt there's something that you tend to do? Yes, I did. I am a terrible person.
Oh no, I cut him off. I jumped right in there.
No, it's me. I am a failure as a host. But do you have certain cliches of your own now that you've had a few minutes to think about it, other than killing players and being a terrible person, as Amy has aptly surmised?
Yeah, I like my cliches are. I think the biggest one I can think of is taking a monster that you think is going to be your friend and making it your enemy, or taking your enemy and turning it into your friend. Basically, I like shades of gray in my character depictions. So you can turn anybody, even your most stalwart enemy, into somebody who can become an ally in my games.
So there's like maybe a unicorn.
Yeah, I think part of it is that I like NPCs with very sort of a lot of complexity built into them. They might seem simple on the surface, but you realize that they're actually very multidimensional.
Your cliche is just good writing, not so much. Cliche.
Not always.
That makes me want to ask like the thing that you least like that you've ever made, but I don't want to like take this down to like a dark level of like trying to find all our sad secrets.
The least liked thing? My least liked thing?
Yeah, the least liked thing. The least liked of your creations. Oh, it's pressure.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's a good answer.
I don't think about it.
I have an answer for that, but it has nothing to do with D&D.
Oh yeah, what
can I answer it? Well, my background is sketch comedy, and at Groundlings, and we I don't know if anyone knows what Groundlings is. Doesn't matter. But at this comedy theater, my friend and I wrote a sketch, and we were getting towards the end of basically what a boot camp is for 6 months. Every week, like SNL, you put up a new sketch show, and it's intense, and you're writing about 12 sketches a week, and about 2 of them, maybe 1 are any good. And it was towards the end of it, and we were tanked. We were like, nothing's funny. We don't know what it is. But I had written down this list of ideas, and one of them was a scarecrow a scarecrow gives advice to a crow who is insecure about making friends. And that's the one that my friend was like, that's a great idea. Let's write it. And it turned out to be the worst and weirdest sketch that I've ever made ever. But it was like but they put it up. They put it up on stage and it bombed so hard. And that was it. It was like the dumbest crow ever. Like the crow shouldn't have had friends. There was nothing likable about the crow. And then he played the scarecrow, and the scarecrow was like had just gotten catfished by another scarecrow. It was so fun.
Wow. See, scarecrows. I
This
find
is
scarecrows
real weird.
creepy as.
Yeah.
Creepy as-
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, scarecrows are
Yeah.
already upsetting.
Mm-mm.
That's awesome. I have too many to list, so I can't think of anything right now. Hopefully not this show. But maybe we'll Jerry, anything of yours? Anything that you just wish I hadn't done this to my life? This wasn't in the
Man,
Jerry Holkins back catalog.
you know, for me, and ultimately, and I think this would be true for Amy and Chris too, is that I think making peace with failure is probably the most effective thing you can do to improve as a writer, because you have to write in order to complete work. You have to write, and nothing can succeed 100% of the time. So you actually have to make your peace with that early on, to build a body of work that you're proud of. And so there's literally there's nothing I've ever done that didn't eventually teach me something important, even if I hated it at the time. You really do have to make your peace with that, I think.
Yeah, and realize that there's always the next project. So as long as you feel like you're making an effort to consciously get better, and you're
Right.
seeing improvements, even small ones, then at least you can kind of get through it all. But yeah,
The only way out is through. I mean, you have to write your way out of this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Chris,
I have a
go,
I think my insecurity comes. Oh, go ahead.
sorry, I can't tell something. But I was gonna say, not to release just how much of a stalker I am, but Chris, you actually tweeted earlier this year that good editors are more important than good writers. And that actually rang really true, because yeah, sometimes you're writing, and then they're like, and edit it, and you're like, all of it's bad or all of it's good, and I don't know. And then the editor can come in and like point you in the right direction.
Yeah, or they can say, here's sort of the heart and soul of what's here. I can save this and get rid of all the crap around it.
Right.
How do you deal with that when that's live though? When I dungeon master, there's some nights like I definitely feel like I did a great job. Like you just feel like you're getting the feedback from the players, or they're like if you have an audience like some of you guys do. But do you ever finish a session and you just don't know whether you wasted your players' time or not? Because I find this to be kind of like a concern for some people when they get
I think
done, because you're so in it.
There is so much forgiveness for live stuff that it's a difference between I've written songs, and I've done musical theater improv. And when you're doing musical theater improv, the audience will applaud if you rhyme. If you rhyme, the audience thinks you're brilliant. When you're writing a song, you have to be way more like creative with your wording, and the scansion has to like work out just exactly right. But the forgiveness is extremely big for live or improv. And so no if it happened and we all got together and then I don't know, there's I've never had like a real shit-eating D&D session.
How about for you
You
two?
got something, Chris?
No, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, sometimes I'll look back on a live game or something like that, not often, but sometimes, and I'll think, oh, that's kind of terrible. But in the moment, everybody seemed to be having a good time, and it's entirely because of what Amy's saying. Is people know that you're just sort of making up things as you go along, and they're on your side. They want you to succeed in that moment.
Yeah.
Whereas if they're sitting at home and reading one of your books, they're not seeing you. There's something between them and you. And so they can be much more critical and brutal because they know you're not in the room.
Right.
Yeah. So
That makes sense.
yeah, I have definitely had games, I mean, semi often, where I feel that I did not, I didn't do what I intended to do. So for me, that's what constitutes the failure state. But invariably, and this is a mess, like I don't know why this is, invariably, the players love those games. And I don't know why. I wish that they, because then I'd have some data points I could string together and understand what had happened. But as a practical matter, those are games where, generally speaking, I have lost control, and it's me, and then it's these 4 other people. And if I've lost control, often that means that they have gained it, and that's actually something that they like. And what's more, especially if you're if you're playing in a performative capacity, the audience really likes it when they take the wheel too. So
yeah,
you can feel as bad as you want to about that type of stuff, and give yourself a moment to do it. No doubt, remembering that later will cause you to give a better effort later, if for no other reason, but so that you won't have to feel that feeling again. But you're not actually you aren't neutral in terms of your assessment of your work, and it's possible that you can't be. And so you can have a feeling about it, and that's fine, but that's not actually an index of the performance. Like, feel however you want to, but that doesn't mean that you did a bad job. Even you don't have the capacity to completely observe yourself from this third person perspective, and even know, because I swear I've come off of the stage. Yeah,
I've asked my players, what are your favorite episodes of Dice Camera Action, blah blah blah, and their lists are always completely different from one another. They gravitate toward different things, and they often say things where I'm like, really? You thought that was the best episode of the season? Okay, cool. But
yeah.
not.
Well, it's to the extent now. Yeah, I've actually changed how my season arcs work for C Team. I do it a completely different way than I used to now. I literally do the season, and I do one less episode. I plan one less episode, and then the last episode is literally like player's choice. They have a full 2.5 hours to resolve any questions they've had about the season, any interactions they want to have with characters, any personal development stuff that they want to handle. I literally build a whole episode in for this failure state now. So who knows?
I do like the chaos. Like I don't see chaos as failure. I think that's like an opportunity to shine as a dungeon master in particular. If you can, even though it melts your brain, and I tend to black out.
I mean,
but
they succeed in that context.
Yeah. I tend to black out during those sessions where I have to because I've presented the story. I had a particular scenario where I presented this is clearly where the story is going, and they're like, "We hate this town. Let's leave." And that was the most fun. Those moments where people just kind of go off the rails. I mean, you shouldn't have rails if you're running a D&D game, but when they go so far off the rails that they're pretty much have decided to start their own pirate fleet because they had their own ideas of what they wanted to do that day. That's when I'm happiest, because it forces me to move so much faster. And I've seen all of you improvise so beautifully and wonderfully to the point where I think a few of you almost died. How big is improvisation to what you
Big.
do as a dungeon master?
Big.
Big.
Huge. It is the
Show
Rosetta
me in yards.
Stone of DM skills. The
Yeah.
ability to improvise, to think on your feet, to move with alacrity when the characters zig instead of zag as you expected. Once you become good at improv, DMing takes on a whole new dimension. Then you can really play with your characters and players.
Well,
You can
I
really
mean,
mess with them.
I grew up doing improv, like, and specifically comedy improv since high school. So that that is like, I don't know life without it, you know. And I definitely know how that translates really, really well to being a dungeon master and also being a player. But I think, yeah, I think it's what Chris said, like, I don't know a world without it. And I think some of the best people I like playing with, especially, I mean, I know I'm at ground zero for these actor improv types, but yeah, my favorite people to play with will very, very graciously roll with the punches.
Yeah.
And yeah, even the girls in my home game, they're all sketch, or they all come from like a comedy writing background, and it is so much, it's so much fun. Yeah, it's the best version of D&D. Has a ton of improv. It also, as a dungeon master, makes it like, where if there's a day where I know I've got a game and I put it way off and I've got an hour to prep, I can be like, well, great, like, nothing's going to work out the way I want to anyway, so I can also like forgive myself a little bit on that note.
So I have a
It's
game
also
that I
nice knowing
run
you have the
for.
players.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah,
have
it's
2 games that I run for my larvae, and so the game that
Took
I
me a
play
minute.
with my son.
Me too. I
Yeah,
thought that
so
was
it's
like a
my
new
son
show. I
Elliot.
was like, where do I listen?
Larvae, tell me more about these writhing worms.
Larvae,
no,
I'm in larvae
I've
too.
got, so the D&D game that I run is basically like it's Pied Piper in reverse. So that's the game that I play with the kids. So that's like my son. So they're all 13 now. So it's my son, and then his friend Theo, Peter, Saffron, and Ruby. So it's a pretty cool, pretty mixed group. And so basically, they live in a town where all the adults were spirited away, and so they have to figure out how to have a town, and how to do all the things that all the grown-ups were doing the whole time.
That's
So we've been
amazing.
playing that for about a year and a half. We've been having a super, super good time with that one. And that one's pretty funny. And I only work on it when I sit down at the table. I don't actually think about it the rest of the time. So that game is completely improvised. And so if you have the opportunity to do that just as a practice, especially with an audience, so Amy, you were talking about how the audiences that we have, you know, they want to come along with us on this ride. It's even more true for 13-year-olds. Like, they're having a good time there, right? And so, but the game that I run for my daughter and her friends, which is just like all the girls on, basically. So it's like, it's me running the game, and then it's Ronya and Lindy, who are 9 and 10, and then Clara and Jillian, who are both 17. But that isn't a D&D game. That's Tales from the Loop. Has everybody played some Tales from the Loop? Yeah. So that's basically kids in school, and they have the best time with this, right? And so what's really funny is that the young girls, they want to play young women, and then the people who are actually young women, they're playing girls. So the age slider, they basically, so they're taking their cues from the girls who are young in real life, who are playing the older, like, the social dynamics in that group are whacked out. But because of the type of game that is, I would never want to improvise that, because those are supposed to be like movies. So I really want
Mhm.
there to be an act structure specifically for Tales from the Loop, because Tales from the Loop as a system is so loose. I don't trust it. I don't trust interesting things to happen just as a naked result of the system in Tales. Whereas in D&D, there's
Right.
so many interactions that are skill based. There's so much mechanical scaffolding that can lead to interesting play right out of it. You know what I mean? Like I don't trust Tales to handle that type of game. Um,
Right.
but in both cases, you really have to be on your toes, just because, I mean, these child beasts, the media, like their basic assumptions for media are completely unlike, I think, what is generally being offered. I mean, for them, a TV star is like a person that they connect with on YouTube every day. And, you know, if they play a game, it's something like Minecraft, they fully expect to be able to dismantle the entire game top to bottom. And if they can't do it, there's something wrong with it. Right. And so running games for kids where the content, like their expectations for content, and like the rate of content delivery is completely unparalleled in history, is a pretty novel challenge.
I saw someone in the comments mention that they're like, I don't remember, it was my DMing skills are sorely lacking because my improv skills are sorely lacking. And I think that's not really being fair, because one of the things, which is the topic of this talk, is storytelling. And because if you've read a novel or read a bunch or watched a movie or watched a bunch or TV show, like storytelling is totally innate. Like you know what the answer is. If the character right off the bat is like, oh, I wish I could, I don't know, find this character and like profess my love to him or whatever, you know already that that's not going to happen the next corner they walk around. And if it looks like it could happen, then they got what they want, but it's not what they wanted. Like it's a doppelganger or something. You just know what it's supposed to feel like, I guess, in terms of storytelling.
Yes.
So if the character is too happy too early, then you're going to screw them over later. Or if they're too upset, to release some of the tension somehow. And I think there's a lot of, I get insecure as fuck running a game, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be the one where they figure it out that, I did all of this backstory, but I still don't know how it's going to happen. And then I always, like, happily, I surprise myself, not because of improv though, it's more because of the innate storytelling just in humans, that how a story is kind of supposed to go.
Right. You kind of intuitively know that in a good story, there are peaks and valleys. There are highs
Mhm.
and lows. There are moments of tragedy and moments of
Yeah.
comedy, and the two play off each other. Like, even in a game that's like deadly serious and horrible, like, say, Curse of Strahd, you
Yeah.
need the lighter moments to provide contrast. And as humans, we sort of understand that, which is why, like in my games, they vacillate between my players vacillate between being utterly terrified in one moment and then laughing hysterically the next. And that's the kind of peak and valley
They're related.
experience, yeah, that they're looking
That's
for.
funny that you bring it up, because Curse of Strahd is so my wife is playing a very odd rock gnome who is who is an arcane trickster, who has decided that Strahd is her ultimate villain. Like that is who she
I
is
saw
going to
you
take
post that
down.
on
Yeah.
Twitter.
And she
I
can't
saw
really
all of
seem
y'all
to
on
feel
Twitter.
fear. So we're trying to run this adventure for her, and it's just amazing because I think that she is the comedy. Like no matter how dark things get, she's just gonna be like, oh look, I found a skull, cool. Like, and
Right.
maybe still attached
Sounds
to
like she needs
somebody.
a foil.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, her foil is Murderbot, but you're right. I need to introduce more NPCs, that are likable, that maybe get offed here and there or have something terrible happen to them.
So
But
she's the
Curse of
Kender.
Strahd is dark. Huh? She's
Yeah.
not playing a Kinder, but she's definitely she's just a very optimistic, incredibly creepy rock gnome. Yeah. So She's doing a good job. Chris Estrada is scary. Thank you, Chris, by the way.
You should give her a hoopack anyway. Just cause.
Oh yeah, give her a
You gotta have-
hoopack.
there needs to be
Man,
more
I am not the
hoopacks,
biggest.
Period.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not the biggest fan of Tasselhoff Burfoot. I know I may get kicked out
I'm
of
outta
the
here.
D&D club.
I'm getting. I'm leaving.
That is, I mean, the only thing I like about Tasselhoff is you know it's bad if he's like scared. Like if he suddenly gets scared for no reason,
Yeah.
he's the good like
It's
okay,
Trouble
things are
Town.
really bad.
Yeah.
He's the good cup of water. Giant dinosaur.
One of the funny
So
things
David
you
I've
should
discovered.
threaten her character.
It's an
You should-
option. I'm just putting it out there for everybody. David Tasselhoff, any campaign, no rights. I yield all rights. Just put him in, coach. Put him in.
You don't own David and you don't own Tasselhoff. So you don't own David Tasselhoff.
I love David Tasselhoff. David Tasselhoff would be amazing. Just like
wouldn't last long in my
constantly
game.
open shirt. Yeah. You were saying what were you saying, Amy?
Oh, I was just saying you should threaten her character with domesticity.
Oh
and
yeah, right.
that might be what she's
That-
scared of.
yeah. I think her character would be suburbia. Like that would be her Shadowfell, right? Everything's super pastel and bright, like from Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
That would be both
the
of our
trees are
Shadowfell.
exactly 6 feet apart.
Yeah. I'll cut. Yeah, basically the Modrons. Yeah, in the 1970s.
Consistency is
Pretty
her bugbear.
So, so we talked about improv. I can't talk. Sorry, you've got me completely messed up. So we talked about blah, 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 blah. It's a good thing I'm hosting a show. I seem like I'm really equipped for that. So we talked about improvisation. Now I keep on saying improvisation because it's stuck in my head. I'm gonna have
I used to be terrible. I used to be terrible at improvisation.
You?
Terrible. Yes.
When did it get real for you?
My first DM experiences were, I mean, I had a captive audience because I had one friend and he just wanted to play all the time. So I couldn't do any wrong, but he would come up with all these weird things that his character would do, and I'd be like, I don't know what I'm going to do, so I'm just going to attack you. And that was pretty much how the game ran for the first 2 years.
Do you have a proudest moment? Do you have a proudest moment when it comes to storytelling where you're like, I nailed this? I feel like I really got the feel of this down, whether it was in a game session or something you wrote.
Yeah, I made a girl cry.
So did I. Oh my God. Have we all had this experience?
Was it all the same
when you were playing D&D?
Yeah.
A hitter. It was real life. It was a moment where we had established she wasn't playing very much. She was like keeping kind of quiet during the game, and I had written a letter from her dad because she had written me what her backstory was, and it was a letter from her dad that was like basically telling her that he gives her blessing for her to go on this adventure, and somehow he found which inn she was at, and that's when she cried, but then she also started playing a little bit more. But it was something that like nobody else saw. She didn't show it to anybody else. She just got the letter that I had written her from her dad, and got misty, and then like engaged a little bit more in the game. That's They don't write that in a DM's guide.
Yeah.
Huh?
I was having some problems with attendance in one of my games a few years back, and so somebody was absent for the session.
Your game?
And, fools. But so during the session, at the very, very end of the session, in fact, the bad guys showed up and threw the player's character's severed head out of a bag onto the dock in front of the rest of the characters. And from from that point on, attendance problem solved.
Wow.
I was very, very proud of my ability to deal with that particular issue in my game.
I think the only way you could have done that better is a paper mache version of their actual head that you rolled onto the table. Yeah.
right? Yes, yes. I agree. I concur. Yes.
Well, Todd, I don't I don't specialize in self-congratulation, I would say. That's not I don't have the capacity to do it. But something that I really enjoyed doing whenever I have the opportunity is to write a song for the campaign.
Mm.
And I think there's 4 songs in there total in the 2 seasons that we've done. A couple are by, I mean, they tend to be by a character. It's an NPC that is a musician, is a bard, and so it's really really fun to like write lyrics and music and then perform that stuff, like literally for 4 people. Like it's not. I mean, if you can write music, it's not like super hard. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Amy, right? I mean, it's like
Yeah,
people get
Don't give the secret
people
away. It's so hard.
people get very impressed with
It's not just
some
chord
reason.
changes, guys. It's way more than that.
People get very impressed by the, and it's just the easiest thing on earth. But if you're not ready for it, it really, really gets a hold of you. And so, whenever I have a chance to put something in there, even if it's like a jingle for like a food that's like from one of the towns in the game, like just some little like artifact for people that really is just theirs to enjoy, is just, I really really like doing that anytime I get a chance to do it in the campaign.
It's so funny because I think every DM has their little, I don't want to call them hang-ups, but these little things that really sort of float their boat. Like there's a friend of mine who, when he DMs and they go to an inn, the characters go to an inn or a tavern, he always has the menu for the inn and the tavern done up.
Oh, I
Like
love
he
that.
comes up with all the
Nice.
meals and all the prices and all that, and he just cannot help himself. He's got to have the menu ready before they walk in the front door.
It's artisanal.
I would love that
Yeah.
also, just to take home as a player, like from every session. I
Yeah,
have
it's
like a
just a
new
nice-
artifact. Yeah,
Mhm.
a new memento
Yeah.
of the game.
Yeah.
I love it when a dungeon
Yeah.
master like will draw you out a map, or has some like a pamphlet or whatever. I think that's like some of the most
With
fun.
me,
I
it's
did
maps,
wanted
by the
posters.
way.
Yeah.
Wanted
You're a big
posters
fan
is
of the
another
maps?
one people love.
Oh, they're
But
so fun,
I-
especially when it's
it-
low, really low price.
Yeah.
For the
Yeah, it
for
bothers
the
me
players.
when I have to improvise an encounter in a location and I don't have a map for it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Chris's maps though. I mean, God, has everybody seen one of his maps? Like one of his hand-drawn ones?
No, I have not seen a hand-drawn Chris Perkins. Are they selling
Oh.
somewhere?
You would not believe it. You wouldn't believe it if you saw it. It looks like.
Yeah.
Have you seen it, Amy?
I think that one time, Chris, when we played at, in that secret room or whatever in LA.
Yeah.
Do you remember it? You
Yeah.
you drew it.
I do.
You drew.
Oh, that's right.
You hand drew.
There's
Yeah,
the
but
red
you're
room.
right, Jerry. It's as if. Yeah.
It's nonsense.
Oh, everyone's gonna want to know
So,
what that is.
yeah.
But it
Yeah,
was
okay, so just so everybody knows, I ran a top secret game. I think it was at the Paramount Studios lot in Burbank.
Yeah, it was a wild.
That's fun.
It was a wild day.
For some very, very cool people.
Oh.
And
Okay.
also
Lucky
me.
you.
Yeah.
But-
And also Amy was there.
Among the coolest, Amy Vorpahl.
No, but Jerry, to your
Well,
point, yes, he hand drew a map just off the top, and by the end of it, you were like, "Go!" I was gonna go screw yourself. I was gonna curse, but I caught it.
It has like the
because
cross
it did.
hatching.
Yeah.
It's asinine.
Yeah.
It's like rude to other people to just flex like that. It's rude.
Yeah. I'm so old. I
If we're
just learned
doing
this
it-
term, flexing.
If we're doing another addendum that I've done for exposition is, instead of me saying it, they find a diary or something that I've written and I put it on the table. They can read it, Or another thing is a bard is singing a song about the history, and I'm like, oh, you guys know this song, and I'll hand them the lyrics, and it's real short, but they, it's fun for them to come up with a tune to like a rhyme
You
scheme.
goofball. That's awesome.
That's like tricking your players into being Christmas carolers or something. Yeah. Oh, okay. Now we're going to take the game session outside. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you perform. I'm too tired.
Isn't that really
So Jerry,
what
when do we
about?
Jerry, when do we get the full musical episode of C Team?
Yeah.
Oh, like Buffy? You want that
Yeah.
musical episode?
Yeah,
sure do.
For me, it'd be like 2.5 hours. I mean, that would be like an opera. That's a whole nother thing. But a musical episode, maybe if it was a shorter one, where you could just like flex on them big time, write the different songs. I don't know. That would be a hoot nanny. I have.
Remember the old Dragon magazine articles, Bard on the Run?
No.
I actually remember. I don't.
Oh, so Dragon magazine for years and years and years would do essentially. They'd take the lyrics, or they take the music from well-known songs, and they do D&D themed lyrics for them, and then publish them in the magazine. Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Yeah. That was my Dragon days. Nice. My Dragon days were very, very few and far between, just because like that was not the type. I could not have a magazine. I think my mom would have preferred that I had an adult magazine.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're pretty intense about that.
Than to have a dragon, let alone dungeon. But dungeon, I suppose may have some crossover.
Yeah, that was the satanic panic in Spokane was pretty big at that time. I got letters.
Oh my
parents' house.
Oh yeah. I had my mom had a lot of stuff. It was big in the church. You couldn't do it, and then like we had a lot of books and like about how bad it was, and it's just like it's so funny. It's like now Chris Perkins is DMing for famous people on movie lots, and 20 years ago, it's like, oh, your whole family is going to go to hell. It's like, I'm just saying there's a goal between these two.
Well, I'm still going to hell. I mean.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, but on your own terms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, those were interesting times. It is fun to see how people have embraced D&D again, and how without being like there being some kind of witch hunt this time around. I'm also curious. PAX Unplugged is coming up very soon, which I'm trying to plan for as we're talking
this week.
I'm very excited about this. Do you feel like that just feels like such a natural thing to do for a convention, because people are so already friendly? If you're playing something like D&D or tabletop games, there's already that social contract. Does that just like instantly carry over to PAX Unplugged? Because this is going to be my first year. This is your second year doing it.
Man, you are in for a treat. So, I mean, but you've been to like East.
Yeah, I've been to
West.
I
mean, yeah, exactly. So it's like, yeah, exactly.
It's just slightly less. West. It's just slightly less further east.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. It's the same. It's the same vibe. But I mean, the cool thing about it is that that contract, I mean, has already been instantiated at the other PAX shows. Like, the expectation is that you are going to, be as human as possible for the next few days. And so all the rancor and weird stuff that bubbles up online or on Reddit or whatever, like at a PAX show, none of that stuff is acceptable. Like, and it isn't that it doesn't exist. It's like the online disinhibition effect or something like that. There's different terms for it, but people just behave in these hyper aberrant ways online, and then when you come to like a PAX show, like that sort of thing, there's lots of mechanisms in place that keep that sort of thing from metastasizing at a show.
Well,
But the
purge that you
tabletop
guys do
area
at
of
midnight
PAX,
helps.
yeah. As soon as you
Yeah.
hear the toll of the bell,
Yeah.
obviously, perform the ritual. But
Yeah.
no, any one of those shows has this vibe, and it has a very, very true expression in the tabletop area. Like I say PAX East especially just because it's the biggest format. Like it's the largest place where we can do that. And it was actually seeing the tabletop stuff at PAX East that told us that we needed to be looking at a show that was just tabletop. Just because we knew that it would feel like it felt last year at PAX Unplugged. Like it's like PAX, except it is not overwhelming in terms of because the expo floor for PAX kind of, that's loud. Like it's rated
a lot of
in a
techno.
decibel. Oh my gosh, it's pretty real.
It's like it's a rave. It's competing raves.
Well, yeah, but it's like tabletop. But my heart has just always been in this type of stuff. And so when you go to the expo floor, and it's like literally, I want to buy something from every booth. It is a very dangerous show. So it's like you have to apply the same sort of rules that you would like at Vegas, where it's like, okay, I'm going to go to the ATM and I'm only out this much money, and I'm not going to spend any more money. I'm only you have to approach this in a strategic way, because it's like you can only play so many war games. Like you have to choose one because you have to pay to build all those people. Like it's it's not a game. If it's still in the box, it's not a game yet. Like you have to have some rules for yourself. But I'm super cranked up. I mean, for me, I just want to see where. I'm just very curious what year 5 looks like. I mean, I wonder what it will look like. I want to just like skip to the end, basically.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited for this. Chris, are you coming?
I will not be at PAX Unplugged this time. I have company in town. So, but interestingly enough, my players on Dice Camera Action are all going, and they're running a game without me, without the DM. How is this possible?
How dare they?
Well,
it won't be canon.
Well, we did see something.
It can't be canon.
We did see something like that.
It's totally
Chris.
Canon. Yeah.
Well, think about Waffles Inc., right? I mean, we made something. We made a sort of podcast type experience that will be released next month, right? And that had a DM like for the second half of it, but for the first part, we had a very, very light touch. Yes. I mean, we basically just let them, and we had 8 players at that thing too, and we just let them go, not wild, but certainly there was a certain bestial character.
Yeah, you talk about sort of organic group storytelling. That experience, basically just putting those 8 players, basically 4 players from 2 different groups together at a table and just watching the story evolve naturally out of their character interactions to the point where the second half is this narrative roller coaster. A lot of actual stuff happens.
Yeah, I mean, for fans of those games, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Afterward, I'm just like, what the just happened? I don't know. There were 2 DMs and somehow we lost control.
Yeah, but there were 2 solid hours for the podcast, and then the game that we ran was 2-3 hours, and we had both of us there for that as well. But the podcast is really the best example of the players like almost completely managing it. What's funny is that I'm sure that we still exist there in their mind somewhere. Like
exactly.
I'm sure that we loom. We're like the wolves in that picture of all the wolves and the moon. It's like there's that sort of looming upper wolf. I like to think that we exist in sort of a floating thing. So they know they're in trouble to a certain extent.
Yeah.
We are the upper wolf.
What's wonderful about What's wonderful about games like this, like D&D and other role-playing games, is that they kind of encourage this group storytelling thing, and you do never know often what's going to happen. Like, it is possible by the end of this episode that this character will marry this house. And it's like, what?
Especially if Amy is involved.
Just as an example, that's something that could happen. Right? Could happen.
It's just an example.
There was a game at Gamehole Con which Chris and Amy were a part of, where things got so off the rails that Chris himself became his own NPC, and Matthew Mercer became an NPC as well, a murdery version of Matthew Mercer. I've never seen a game quite like that, because when games get that when you have to improvise that much as a DM, like I can feel my brain kind of melting from the heat, because you have to like you are just saying yes to everything and moving along. And I was just watching Chris, like I'm like, he's gonna pop like scanners.
I will say it was less the players' fault, and definitely the Extra Life donors who were like, and now I want to see this crazy thing happen. And they donated for the children, so it had to happen,
Right.
for better or for worse.
Yes.
That was
my
CPU
my CPU was melted at the end of that episode. I was baked.
You did not look right, even, I would say. you just had that
it was also after midnight when it ended, and that's like 3 hours past my bedtime.
Yeah.
It's also dangerous. It's dangerous to play. It's dangerous to play live with an actual audience who will laugh at your dumb stuff, because then you're like, this is going well, I'm going to do this more. And sometimes that's not what you should be doing. You're like, my encouragement.
I think repeatedly people had to mention, like, this is not your typical D&D session. If this is new to you, this is not normally how D&D goes.
And and I don't think any of us were like under any influence. We just were, under the influence of D&D.
Yeah, but what's funny is that Chris, Acquisitions Incorporated tends to go off the rails pretty quick, and that's what I like about it. But
I love that.
Like, it's always hijinks, and it's just a mess, but a beautiful mess. And but not because of anything Chris did. It's because Chris makes an adventure, and then we have Pat Rothfuss, and it just goes to hell.
Yeah, and then four crazy people interact with the adventure. Yeah, dice rolls.
Yeah, and so
dice rolls will
but it's like, I'll
totally
come back,
torpedo your adventure.
Yeah, but I'll come back and I'll be like on the tweeter, and I'll be like, man, cool game, it's the best game of all time, right? And then he'll be like, nothing happened. Nothing happened. You didn't do anything.
What Jerry's not saying is, I'm that guy on Twitter saying that to him. It's the best game ever.
Like, nothing happened at all. And it's just like, you should not come to us for that. I'm sorry, like, we're not going to achieve a lot. We're not achievers, okay? Just, make
we're
peace.
about character development.
No, I mean,
right,
as an adult, playing D&D has turned into to organize. If I had just said, hey guys, I'm going to host a dinner, do you want to come? Everyone would make an excuse. They would be too busy with kids, or they would have something else, or they'd have work or something. But D&D is just an excuse to hang out with your friends in a very organized way. And if it devolves into like shit talking and laughing and whatever, then that's D&D done right. Like if everyone's in the same room having like this one experience and nothing happens, whatever, that's still D&D.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's that chaos, and I think it's great as a dungeon master to get players that are just going to run away with things, and that's why I like Acquisitions Incorporated. The fact, and I also think the dungeon master has to be, when people like in Acquisitions Incorporated who are impossible to control, delightfully. So you do need this straight man.
Do they know?
But Chris, you are very much often. You're like you're the reminder. Like, if you're going to pickpocket your Laxel, I'm going to have to poison you, and you're going to have to be at 1 hit point for the rest of
But
the.
it's like it's actually, Chris and I both try to keep that thing on the rails. The truth is that Omen, generally speaking, acts as the straight man, and so
Yeah.
because I'm the boss, it's a completely
Right.
in-world, way to do it. It doesn't actually feel out of character. My character is literally the one who's saying, "Hey, we have stuff to do. We're literally being paid to do this. Let's go do it." Even though it's actually true on multiple levels of reality. Todd, what a pleasure it has been. Thank you for inviting me to be on your show.
I appreciate you being on my show as well. Thank you for talking and filling the time so I don't have to, because I can't say improvise, which is apparently
We got
my
you.
task for
We
this
got you.
evening. Oh my god.
This right here, this
Yeah,
is
talking.
this is the dream team right here.
Yeah, this is saving me. But I have to say that when you do name your show Todd Talks, you can only expect not to be able to. I think you're setting expectations way too high. And
No, you're just
definitely
giving the
learned from my
audience an
mistake.
opportunity to fill in the blank after talks. So Todd talks well. Todd talks poorly.
I can see this going in a lot of directions.
Is Todd Talks a pun?
It's kind of a play off TED Talks, and also bad
great.
headline writing, where you're like Todd talks to Jerry Holkins. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a little of both. A
we're-
little column A, a little
we're-
column B. My ginormous ego.
Well, I love you, Todd. I got stuff
love you,
I got to
Jerry.
do.
I know. I gotta let
Right.
you guys go. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you, Mr. Chris Perkins, who is a wonderful and adorable human being and a tyrannical, terrifying dungeon master as well. Thank you, Amy Vorpahl, for being on the show. You are amazing.
Thanks for
I had
having
a
me.
great time meeting you at Gamehole Con, and hopefully we get to play some more games later. And thank you, Jerry, really for taking the time right before PAX Unplugged this weekend. That is huge. This is our show, Todd Talks. Thank you so much for attending our roundtable discussion. Whoa, that's a lot, Chris Perkins' eye. And thank you so much for watching.
So many tubes.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.